When Taylor Swift first entered the music industry with her ever-flowing blonde curls, Nashville style and guitar, do you think she ever thought to herself, I'm about to become the music industry? Kidding, kind of. After a successful debut with her self-titled album, let me just correct myself, successful is even an understatement. Her self-titled album was on the charts for 2 years after its release, and it became the best-selling country album of 2007. Basically, there's a successful debut, and then there's Taylor Swift. At this point in her career, Taylor had slowly become increasingly popular with the general public and had already made a name for herself in the country music scene. But it was up until the release of her second studio album, Fearless, when Taylor had become a mainstream phenomenon. Let me set the scene for you guys. The year is 2008. On the 11th of November, Taylor Swift, a then 18-year-old, drops her sophomore album titled Fearless. Fearless is a country pop album with influences of pop, folk, and rock. Themes of this album include relationships, heartbreak, and romance, just to name a few. And interestingly enough, many actually consider this album Taylor's first real effort into pop music. Fearless debuted at #1 on the Billboard charts, and it spent 11 non-consecutive weeks at #1 on the Billboard 200, which became the longest run of the 2000s decade. Fearless also became the best-selling album of 2009, and at this time, this made Taylor Swift the youngest artist to ever reach that achievement. No big deal. This is really impressive behavior from an 18-year-old. Like, really impressive. During this time, Taylor was promoting heavy. She was doing interviews, TV appearances, performances. She hosted SNL. Also, it was in this era where Taylor won a VMA for Best Female Video at the 2009 VMAs for her You Belong With Me music video. This was also the Kanye Gate Award, so yeah. I feel like this is when Taylor Swift really began to just take over. Stay tuned for part 2 on the Fearless era. All the heavy promo and hard work that Taylor had to put in during this album rollout paid off, because at the 2010 Grammys, Taylor Swift took home 4 awards for the Fearless album, including Album of the Year and Best Country Album. She was 19, taking home 4 Grammy Awards. Among many other awards and accolades, it's pretty clear that the Fearless album was a commercial success, and it propelled Taylor's career to new heights. Now, to promote this album, Taylor embarked on her first ever concert tour titled the Fearless Tour. For her first ever concert tour, this was a pretty impressive tour. This tour grossed over $63 million and ran from April 2009 to July 2010. This tour was extremely thought out, from the costumes to the staging to the lighting. She had like a castle. It was very much a fairy tale theme going on. It was just extravagant. In retrospective, this tour was just the beginning. Considering everything that Taylor Swift is doing currently for her Eras tour, the Fearless tour was just the beginning. It was just a little teaser. Nevertheless, it was still extravagant and really impressive for someone's first ever concert tour. I feel like this tour was especially enchanting because obviously it was her first concert tour. People are probably expecting her to go big, but she just proved how much of a dedicated performer she was and how much she really let her songs take a life of its own, and I really enjoyed that aspect. In terms of personal style, slightly before the Fearless era and during, Taylor stuck to a very simplistic, all-American, cowgirl, country girl style aesthetic. Like, it wasn't too Western, but it was very simplistic and girly and all-American girl next door. This is typically what Taylor would be wearing during this era. A lot of flowy, frilly dresses, very simplistic colours, nothing too bold or crazy. But she did love a good sparkly, bedazzled top or dress, and it was pretty much the style of the 2000s, mid-2000s for teenagers. And during this era, she wore a lot of ball gowns. She loved wearing them, especially when she was performing. I feel like it helped get her into character for her songs. The Fearless era transformed Taylor Swift from a country star to a mainstream artist. And right before our eyes, Taylor had already become a superstar. At this point in her career, Taylor had already racked up a few Grammys, broke some records, and was constantly dominating the charts. Now, on the 25th of October 2010, Taylor Swift dropped her third studio album titled Speak Now. Speak Now portrays Taylor's transition from adolescence to adulthood, and I would describe this album as a perfect blend of country and pop music with some rock influences. Throughout this record, there's a consistent theme of confessions and almost like diary entries into Taylor's personal life. Much like Fearless, the album still has that fairy tale, dreamlike vibe and lyricism. Now, this is where it gets interesting because prior to the release of Speak Now, Taylor was receiving quite a bit of criticism about her writing. People just couldn't believe that this young teenager was writing all these lyrics. So in classic Taylor Swift fashion, the best way to respond to criticism and negativity is through your music. She responded to this with the album Speak Now, which is completely composed by Taylor Swift herself. I feel like now this isn't shocking news, but at the time this was really impressive, and honestly it still is, that a 19-year-old could compose a whole album by themselves, like a Grammy nominated album, an album that raised a generation. The fact that she wrote every single song by herself is just a testament to her insane pen game, and it was also a way for her to be vulnerable and personal with her fans. I feel like the biggest mistake that anyone can ever make is coming for Taylor's pen game. Like, before the Swifties even get you, Taylor Swift is gonna humble you quickly by composing a whole album by herself. And it will be the album of the year. Like, it will be that album. One thing I really admire about Taylor Swift is that she always responds to critics or haters with her music and showcasing her talent and writing skills. And in years to come, this would become a trend for Taylor, as she would consistently be bombarded with questions and opinions and statements about her personal life, and she would always respond with insane lyrics. Speak Now debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200 and sold over 1 million copies in its first week. Guinness World Record marked Speak Now as the fastest selling digital album in the US by a female country artist. When it came to promoting this album, she did not come to play. Stay tuned for part 2 on the Speak Now era. Taylor went hard with the promo of this album. She did press interviews, radio interviews, performances, anything you can think of pretty much to promote the album Taylor was doing, and it worked well. She was on magazine covers as well, like insane amount of magazine covers during this time. With each day that went by, Taylor was gaining more and more success and attention and fame. Of course, that comes with a negative press. It was actually in the Speak Now era where a few people started actually bashing Taylor for her romantic relationships and the fact that she would mention or talk about boys or anything to do with her romantic life in her songs, which is so ridiculous. Like, it's actually so ridiculous. Of course, a teenager is going to talk about her life in her art. And because of her links with some A-list celeb men, people started to even say that she was fame hungry. Imagine calling Taylor Allison Swift fame hungry. That doesn't even sound right. Despite all this negative attention, Taylor continued to focus on her music, and then she embarked on her second world tour titled the Speak Now World Tour. This tour grossed over $123 million. And it was also the tour where she released her first live album. During this time, Taylor also featured on the Hunger Games soundtrack. She released 2 songs titled Safe and Sound and Eyes Open. I feel like I'm literally getting like flashbacks. I remember watching this music video and thinking, oh, this is so emotional. Like, and even when the song is featured in the film, like at the end, like it's just so emotional. Like, who would have thought that this song would be so iconic? Like, this song became such an iconic thing, and even in like this Hunger Games fan base, like everyone loved this song. And I just feel like she's really good at making listeners and her fans feel things that we've never felt before. And yeah, it was also in this era that Taylor launched her first perfume, Wonderstruck. Do you guys remember this scent? It was so distinctive. I remember my sister had it, and just smelling it brings me back to the time of like room tours on YouTube, Matt Barbie 07, like old school YouTube days. I don't know why. The packaging and branding of this perfume was just so Taylor. It was very like whimsical, fairy tale, dream, like Wonderstruck. It was amazing. Stay tuned for part 3. I'll be discussing the visuals and aesthetics for the Speak Now era. This tour was even more grand than before, if that was even possible. Much like the Fearless tour, she did have the fairy tale Broadway theatric aesthetic. However, she just like took it even further, you know. She added different props. Her lighting was different. She had a whole like church scene play out when she was performing Speak Now. Everything was extravagant. The lights, the dancers, the staging, the never-ending costume changes. She toyed with various costumes to just help bring her story to life, and it was just insane. Absolute impeccable. If you went to this tour, please tell me what it was like, because just from seeing the videos and the footage online, I can just tell this was a real experience. Another thing that Taylor would do is that she'd write different lyrics on her arm throughout this tour. Correct me if I'm wrong or give me a little bit more detail, but I think it was because she had something to do with a fundraiser or a charity titled Speak Now, Help Now. So yeah, as well as writing her signature 13 on her hand, she would have these lyrics on her arms. Or arm, should I say. In terms of her personal style, I feel like she kind of wanted to be taken a little more seriously, even though she was still very young. I feel like a lot of her looks on the red carpet were very much mature vibe, but still very cute and glam, you know. It was almost touching like the old glamour Hollywood style. I really do love this dress from the Vanity Fair. I think it's gorgeous. It complements her very well, and I don't know, it's just stunning, right? I feel like this look overall still gave her that youthful vibe, but was definitely a like self-assured, mature, young woman aesthetic as well. Here's another example of what I mean. This dress that she wore to the 2011 Met Gala. It's a very like mature vibe, but still slightly youthful with her hair and makeup. So yeah, this was kind of the vibe on the red carpets during this era. But obviously she was loving the halter and skater dresses during this era, so this is also something that she would wear during public appearances and award shows. Does this picture not scream like 2011 Tumblr just like threw up on Taylor? Like, this is definitely the aesthetic that she had going on during this time. It was very Tumblr-esque, but also very floral and dainty and pretty. See what I mean? Like, it was very much cutesy, but still not as childlike as her previous era. Many actually refer to the Speak Now era as Taylor's golden era, and I couldn't agree more. After Taylor shut down critics and cemented her legacy as one of the greatest songwriters ever with Speak Now, it was inevitable that her next project would be nothing short of amazing. 6 years into her career at this point, and Taylor had already become a prominent pop artist. On the 22nd of October 2012, Taylor Swift released her 4th studio album titled Red. Red is a country/pop album that explores various genres like dance pop, dubstep, and heartland rock. Themes of this album include emotions, romance, and overall just the complexities of a relationship. Upon my research, many people actually criticised the Red album for not being as cohesive as her previous records, but honestly, I don't always think that is a bad thing. I feel like with non-cohesive records, many more people can relate to the songs because of their various genres and sounds. Like, there is a song for everybody on Red. Might I add that a non-cohesive album is the perfect embodiment for the tumultuous relationship that Taylor is writing and singing about. Like, come on guys, let's use our brains here. Red was a major success. The album debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200 and sold 1.2 million copies in its first week, marking the highest opening sales in a decade. Her lead single, We Are Never Getting Back Together, was an international success, and it earned Taylor her first #1 in the US. The impact of that song, and let's not even get into I Knew You Were Trouble, like, those songs were everywhere. How can I forget to mention this? Guys, Red was the second highest selling album of 2012, with a total of 3.1 million copies sold. Can we just really take that in for a second? 2012 was a great year for music, and to have achieved this on her 4th album at 22 years old, just a year younger than me, my brain can't fathom this. Stay tuned for part 2 on how the Red era changed Taylor's career. Fun fact about the Red album, Taylor had to pick between 30 to 35 songs to choose from, and she ended up getting them down to 60. The Red album earned so many accolades and awards, including 4 Grammy nominations. To further promote the album, Taylor embarked on the Red Tour, which grossed $150.2 million, making the Red Tour the highest grossing tour by a country artist of all time. On this tour, we saw Taylor get even more creative with her stage design and her costumes and performances. Everything was just a level up from Speak Now. Costumes on this tour weren't my favourite, but I do like this one in particular. I just love how it's just so red and sparkly and obviously so on theme with the album. And yeah, I just feel like it just really helped bring a lot of the songs and performances to life. I feel like the overall visuals and aesthetics for this era were so well done. And honestly, I feel like it perfectly matched the album's lyrical content. Taylor was literally at the forefront of that 2010s vintage Tumblr aesthetic during this era. For this era, Taylor made a slight few changes to her appearance. In this era, we said goodbye to her bouncy, innocent curls and said hello to her iconic bangs straight hairstyle. I feel like whenever an artist makes a change with their hair, it's definitely significant. And for me, that solidified that the Red era was like a shift in terms of Taylor's artistry and in terms of her career. I feel like hair is just a big thing, especially for marketing as an artist, as a musician. I feel like hair is just a big thing in general, to be honest. Like, even if you're a regular, normal person, changing your hair is a big deal. In terms of personal style, her outfits mainly consisted of mixed trends from the 50s and 60s. The vibes this picture is giving me is a very poised woman, retro chic aesthetic. Like, yeah, this vibe is just giving something like Audrey Hepburn would wear in like a classic black and white film. Like, it's definitely more sophisticated and traditional than what she wore in her previous era. Fashion is so funny because this was definitely on trend in 2012, but also the illuminating mix match patterns were also on trend. But of course, Taylor opted for the classic style. When you think about it, it's quite funny that Taylor's style during the Red era was very much retro, vintage, chic aesthetic. But the Red album itself was quite defiant in the sense of she was stripping away from that image and that sound that we had grown accustomed to with Speak Now and Fearless, and she was entering this like pop, hyper pop girl era with like these dubstep, electro-y, poppy sounds, and I don't know, just like a crazy different side of her that we hadn't seen lyrically and musically. Like the intensity of the Red album and its lyrical content and visuals and music videos, like that wasn't necessarily conveyed in her personal style, which I find really interesting. And this isn't to say she wasn't wearing her iconic red lip, because she was. Like, Taylor Swift owned that colour in the 2010s and pretty much still now, but she just didn't really convey the intensity of the Red album and the defiantness of it all in her personal style, which I find very interesting. With the Red era, we saw a major shift with Taylor Swift. I just realised that rhymed. I didn't do that on purpose. We saw the shift with her transcending into a more experimental artist than a traditional one. I feel like she kind of took the reins with her music career, and she was kind of sitting in that driver's seat and making these decisions and deciding, I don't really have to do something again like Speak Now. I don't have to prove to people that I can write these songs. Everyone knows it now. That was a success. That was great. But Red was just something different, and she wanted to do this and she did it well, and it was a success. Her allowing herself to be more experimental with her music and her artistry allowed us to receive one of the best albums of that decade. I think her genre hopping and her towing the line between country and pop with the Red album just showcased the society that she was not going to let them decide who she was going to be as an artist. Like, you can't put Miss Swift in a box. She's going to do what she wants. The Red album was a success because Taylor had the talent and the strategy to succeed in this era. One thing we don't give Miss Swift enough credit for is honestly that she's just such a smart businesswoman. Like, that's really what it comes down to. She's one of the many artists in the music industry that is just, she just knows what's up. Well, honestly, I think that's another conversation for another day. Stay tuned for the 1989 era. Prior to the release of 1989, music critics were heavily questioning Taylor's credibility as a country musician due to her mixing genres in Red. During this time, Taylor had just moved to New York and was seemingly living her best life with her new girl squad. So in 2014, Taylor decided to drown all the noise with 1989, a full-on pop album. Titled after her birth year, Taylor Swift's fifth studio album was released on the 27th of October 2014. For this album, Taylor took inspo from her personal life as she normally would with previous albums, but she also switched it up a little bit with the sound. As much as Taylor still discussed her love life on the 1989 album, she took a different approach with this one. With songs like Bad Blood and Blank Space, Taylor played into the media's narrative, and she kind of had fun with it and ran along with whatever ideologies and opinions that they had of her. In my opinion, the songs on 1989 give us more of an insight into Taylor's mind and what she's really thinking, and kind of pulled back a few layers from which she kind of not hid from us in the previous albums, but she held back from. She opened up a lot more on this album. 1989 was an extremely successful album. 1989 debuted atop the Billboard 200 and sold 1.29 million copies in its first week. This achievement made Taylor Swift the first artist ever to have 3 albums sell over 1 million copies within its first week. Oh, but it doesn't stop there. Guys, this album not only spent 11 non-consecutive weeks at the top of the Billboard charts, but also spent the first full year after its release in the top 10 of the Billboard 200. Mind blown. Are we really surprised at this achievement though? If you guys remember, the songs on 1989 had so much radio play. Taylor Swift was everywhere. Also, fun fact, if you didn't already know this, 1989 is the most awarded pop album by any artist in history, with 158 awards, including the Grammys. Stay tuned for part 2. As her first official pop album was coming up, Taylor went heavy with the promo with 1989. She was everywhere. She was on Instagram. She was using all sorts of social media to engage with her fans and promote her new music. Like, she was on a mission. She was doing so many interviews, so many appearances. I really love this magazine shoot, by the way. This was also what she was doing during this time. So many photo shoots, so many magazine shoots. And I think she ate. I think she really ate with this one. She promoted 1989 through various product endorsements, including Subway. I mean, who would have thought Taylor Swift and Subway, but it happened. I feel like a lot of celebrities used to do this, and it's not a common thing that they do often, but when they do it so well. And I just love celebrity endorsements. I find them so interesting. She had a deal and partnership with Keds. I honestly cannot even tell you. I didn't even know what Keds was before Taylor Swift had the endorsement. Like, no word of a lie, I didn't know. But how fitting, like how perfectly fitting was Taylor Swift for this endorsement. I really like it when celebrities do endorsements that just fit their lifestyle or their aesthetic. Like, this one was a very, very well done business move. Also, how can I forget, she had another endorsement with Diet Coke. She was in her bag. I probably could find out how much Taylor made from each endorsement if I do a bit of research, but that might be another video for another day. I find this stuff really, really interesting. But I think you guys get the point. Taylor was everywhere. She was working her butt off to make sure that everybody knew that this album was going to be the album of the year. And it was. To further promote this album, Taylor embarked on the 1989 World Tour, which, might I add, grossed over $250 million. Yep, you heard that right, $250 million. Just Taylor being Taylor and casually making another tour one of the highest grossing tours of all time. Now, I know I say this all the time, but the 1989 World Tour was absolutely insane. It was even more extravagant than we'd ever seen anything she'd ever done on tour before. That was such a mouthful. From the props to the lighting to the costumes to the choreography, she went all in. Even the song remixes, the way she remixed I Knew You Were Trouble, that song, the way she remixed that song did something. And Blank Space, oh my gosh, I'm getting flashbacks from the videos that I've watched. Stay tuned for part 3. On the 1989 World Tour, Taylor would frequently bring out other artists and musicians to perform and sing their songs and just make it a real big part of the show. And I know it is quite common for artists to, I don't know, like surprise guest another artist or singer, but this was just bigger. Like, she made it as if it was there on stage and very like, I don't know, it was just so sweet and nice to watch. And she did various artists, you know. There was Selena Gomez, there was Wiz Khalifa, there was Avril Lavigne, there were bands, there were Indina Menzel. Like, there was a whole segment where she dressed up as Olaf on stage with Indina Menzel singing Let It Go. Like, it just shows how dedicated and how passionate she is about her music. This is really heartwarming to see an artist like love their craft this much. And that's something that I really always kind of admired about Taylor, is how she puts so much effort into her shows and how much she really just makes it a big deal. Like, I saw Taylor Swift in concert on the Reputation tour. I will never forget that. Like, she makes it like a really big part of your memory. I'm just rambling on here, sorry. But I just wanted to say that this segment of bringing on different singers and making it a thing was really sweet. Sorry, but have you ever heard someone say that I went to a Taylor Swift concert and it was terrible? No, you've never heard that, because it just isn't true. She would never put on a terrible show. She puts 100% in all her shows, and I definitely give her her flowers for that. But even though on the surface she was achieving so many amazing stuff during this era and she was seemingly having the best time of her life, she was also struggling personally. Against media scrutiny, body shaming, all of that stuff was leading Taylor to have her own issues in her personal life, and I guess it just wasn't an easy time for her. I just feel like some of the scrutiny, like a lot of the scrutiny that she was getting was just so uncalled for, like the feminism discourse and all that stuff, like the think pieces that people would make about Taylor was just ridiculous, in my opinion. I think it's just a reminder that no matter how successful you are, it doesn't stop you from experiencing real life issues. For the album cover art, Taylor had a Polaroid aesthetic, and I really enjoyed that she did this because this aesthetic and vibe was quite literally ruling Tumblr and Instagram, and We Heart It and Pinterest during the 2010s. Really enjoyed how she tapped into that with the album cover art. She had like Polaroids in her CD, lyrics under each image. It was so cool. Stay tuned for part 4. For this era, Taylor revealed a new hairstyle, which was the bob. This obviously marked the transition from Red to 1989. I really like a lot of her tour outfits on the 1989 tour. Much of them consisted of like glittery crop tops and matching sets and polka dots and sequins and bomber jackets. I feel like she was going for that effortless, fun, flirty vibe, and I feel like that's how she wanted people to receive the album and listen to the album. I really like this one. I feel like it's tapping into her natural like vintage style aesthetic, but also very modern, as it is like cropped on her like torso, midriff, whatever it's called, and then it's a short mini skirt instead of like a long one, you know. Of course, the red lip feature just makes it pop even more. Really enjoy looking back at Taylor's fashion during the 1989 era because it was just so fun and flirty and youthful. Just before releasing 1989, she would wear a lot of looks like this. It was similar slightly to the Red era. Her skirts and dresses were starting to become a lot shorter. That girlie loved having like a play suit or a matching set or a shorts moment. Like she just loved getting her legs out, and I love that for her. It was just such a playful vibe, you know, like she wasn't trying to meet the media standards of how she should dress or act. Like she was literally living her best life. And on the red carpet, she just killed it. Like there's no other word that I can use other than she ate that. Also another look that I love from this era, I'm pretty sure this is what she wears where she has that interview with that woman and she's asking her like, I'm pretty sure you're gonna go home with a lot of men, and Taylor's like, no, I'm gonna go home with my cats, bye. I'm sorry, I just love her response to things. Like it's just so funny. Really like this one as well. The jumpsuit just complements her so well. She's got a little smoky eye going on and her hair is looking a little disheveled but still like very like sultry. That's the word I'm looking for. It's giving me sultry vibes, and I was eating it up. In 2015, she was just killing it with the fashion. I love Bob Taylor. I love it when Taylor has a bob. I think she looks incredible. It really suits her. She should have a bob more often. But this look where she won Album of the Year on this night was fantastic. Loved the matching set for this one and the shoes to die for. But the eye makeup, I wasn't feeling it. Towards the end of the 1989 era, Taylor's style was definitely foreshadowing Reputation. She tended to draw to more moodier and darker tones in terms of her personal style. A lot of the clothes she wore darker, and this was obviously a big contrast because she had the bleach blonde hair known as Bleachella in the fandom. When I was researching Bleachella, how did I miss this? I didn't know that was like a little era in Taylor's life towards the end of 1989, pre-Reputation. Like the Bleachella era was it. The 1989 era was important and impactful for a lot of reasons, mainly because this was the era where we saw Taylor openly fighting for her rights as a musician and for other musicians. As a stance, Taylor decided to remove her entire catalogue from Spotify, arguing that Spotify's free service undermines their premium service, which provides higher royalties for songwriters. And during all of that, Apple announced that they wouldn't be paying artists during customers' first initial 3-month trial. Taylor, being Taylor, wrote them a letter And it basically said something along the lines of fix this or I'll be removing and pulling my album off of the catalogue too. And the very next day, Apple retracted their statement and kind of just announced that they would be paying artists during the free trial. This move was so influential and impactful and obviously made the music industry better and just made streaming and all of that stuff better for artists. I remember hearing this at the time and not really understanding why Taylor did this, but in retrospective it makes so much sense that she made this move and other future musicians can thank her for this. It's so funny that when a woman makes a stance in the music industry, Nicki Minaj has done it, Beyonce has done it, Taylor Swift has done it, they are always seemed as like greedy and like money hungry. But when a guy does it, crickets. Taylor herself called this album a rebirth. With 1989, Taylor Swift made it her mission for it to be impactful and influential, and it worked. In this era, Taylor went from growing pop star to global pop icon. By now, I'm sure we all know what was going on in Taylor's life prior to the release of the Reputation album, but for the sake of the video, I'll give you guys a little context on the conception of the Reputation album. After the whirlwind commercial success of the 1989 era, the love that Taylor received quickly turned to hate by the end of this era. The internet and the media went wild and completely turned on her after the Kim Kanye famous lyric situation. Do you guys remember where you were and what you were doing that day that Kim Kardashian tweeted this and got the whole world to basically turn on her? To turn on Taylor, if I didn't make that quite clear. I was heavily on Stan Twitter during this time, so I vividly remember the hashtag Taylor Swift is over party. Like, people were celebrating that Taylor was getting cancelled or her career was over because Kim exposed her. The commotion that Kim K caused on Taylor, and I can't imagine how hard her mental health was during this time. Like, her comments were flooded with snakes. It got to a point that Taylor's comments were so flooded with hate and snake emojis that Instagram actually had to introduce the filter of comments for people like public figures and anyone who's receiving so much hate. It's still so crazy to me that so many people, including the media, decided to villainize this woman because they heard one side of a story. Like, that's just really insane to me. Anyway, as the story goes, or should I say, so it goes, Taylor did try to defend herself throughout this whole messy situation, but nobody wanted to hear it. It really felt like a whole like high school situation when someone makes a rumor about someone and then everybody just like collectively runs with it and believes that person. That's how it literally like felt like, I think, for her. And being on the outside and seeing it unfold, it just felt like a little petty high school mean girl situation. The hate and exposure becoming too overwhelming for Taylor, she decided to go radio silent. For a year, we didn't see or hear from her. During her time away from the spotlight, Taylor was cooking something we didn't know we truly needed. 3 months prior to the release of Reputation, Taylor Swift blanked out her whole social media and started to release cryptic CGI snake videos. Of course, this attracted the attention of everyone and it signified the start of a new era. The Reputation era, aka Taylor's villain era. On the 10th of November 2017, Taylor Swift gifted us with the Reputation album, her 6th studio album. Stay tuned for part 2. Taylor Swift's 6th studio album, titled Reputation, was the last album with her then record label Big Machine Records. Reputation is my personal favourite Taylor album, and a big reason why is because of the sounds on this album. The sounds on this album consist of electropop, R&B with influences of hip-hop, trap and EDM. This album is just top tier. Like, there's a song for every single person on this album. I'm sure I've said this before, but this album is that album, like, where you can listen to a song and be like, I can vibe with this, like I can relate, whatever it is, it will just get you in a happy mood. I absolutely love the songs on this album. Anyways, back to Reputation and how successful this album was upon its release. Reputation debuted atop the Billboard 200. That's just a no-brainer with Taylor Swift. Now prepare to be shocked, but Reputation sold 2 million copies worldwide within 1 week. This made Taylor Swift the first artist to have 4 albums each sell over 1 million copies within 1 week. I'm still digesting that information. And in the US, it was also the best-selling album of 2017. Also, the music video for her lead single, Look What You Made Me Do, broke the YouTube record for the most 24-hour views. And I know it's not all about views, it's not all about awards and records and whatnot, even though it kind of is. Remember, this was just after Taylor was cancelled by society and exiled, and now, like, look at the material. Like, she was still able to come back after a year of radio silence and beat records and do things that no other artist has ever achieved. In my opinion, it just cements that icon legacy. It just cements that impact and influence and overall legendary behavior. Now, when it came to the promo of the Reputation album, Taylor took a slightly different approach than she would do with her previous albums, such as 1989, Fearless, Speak Now. Like, the promo that she did for Reputation just wasn't as intense as her previous album. Instead of doing her usual media run of interviews, radio appearances, live performances, TV appearances, all of that, she opted for something slightly different. She started by holding reclusive album listening sessions for Swifties, selected by Taylor herself, and they were all hosted in her homes. I really enjoy how Taylor took an intimate, private, exclusive approach to promoting the Reputation album by hosting the reclusive album listening sessions in her homes. I just think it's such a sweet way of inviting your fans into the experience. I know many artists do this, but not many do it in their homes. I feel like with that, Taylor was just trying to showcase how much she appreciates the support from her true fans, ones that have stuck by her throughout everything. She was also on the cover of British Vogue, and I think she looks absolutely stunning. It's definitely one of my favourite shoots. And what I really loved about Taylor gracing the cover of British Vogue is that instead of doing an interview, she opted out and decided to do a poem instead. If you haven't read the poem that she wrote for this cover, like, I really recommend you do. It's a stunning poem. I'm not gonna read it here because we don't have all the time in the world, but it was just a really touching sentiment from Taylor. It was written in such a beautiful way, and she was just discussing how she was reinventing herself and moving on and just, I don't know, just being herself. And I don't know, it just made me really admire her even more. So she didn't completely not do any promo performances at all. She did do a couple. From memory, I think she did an SNL performance for promo. She did a Jimmy Fallon one, Jingle Bell Ball, something along those lines. The real promo started with the Reputation tour. And if you're wondering if I went to the Reputation tour, I did. And I still have the evidence. I've been waiting to talk about this forever, so I'm really excited. This was the first time I'd ever seen Taylor Swift, and I'm not gonna lie, before this, I wasn't the biggest Swiftie. I liked her music and I followed her here and there, but this concert made me a Swiftie, I'm not even kidding. It was definitely the best concert I'd ever been to, and I'd been to quite a few. First of all, her vocals were absolutely insane. I don't want to hear anyone talk about Taylor Swift's vocals because she sung her heart out. She did a really good job. The production and costumes were even more amazing. She had every detail down to a T. We were given wristbands that would light up in different colours with various songs. The fact that this light thing even still works, is a testament to how well produced, well put together this tour was. If you've already watched the Reputation tour film on Netflix, that was just a glimpse of how amazing it really was. The use of snakes in this era was obviously very, very common. I feel like I'd never seen so many different versions of snakes in my entire life. She had this giant one on the tour, and it was just the way it came up. I remember it came up and it also had like fire coming out of its mouth. Like, it was so iconic. But of course, this was an obvious nod to the Kim and Kanye feud and how she was basically bombarded and harassed with snake emojis. I really love how she reclaimed that emoji and reclaimed that snake. Taylor had snakes everywhere. Like, she had a snake, a microphone, she had snakes on her costumes. Every single time you were seeing Taylor in the Reputation era, you were seeing some sort of snake imagery. To use the thing that people tried to use against her as part of an aesthetic for her era and her album, I'm sorry, that's just icon behavior. I'm not even trying to blow smoke up Taylor's ass. I'm not. But that, to me, is just such a power move. I love it when artists or celebrities in general use a thing that society and media have used or tried to berate them with, and use it as a power move or use it to promote their music or anything like that. That was a long-winded version of me just saying how much I loved the fact that Taylor kept using the snakes. Most of her tour looks coincided with the like aesthetic and theme of that album, with the black and the gold and the snakes and very much like dark colours. With this, I feel like Taylor was playing into the villain arc that the media and society had put on her, and she was basically having fun with it. Just like with some of the songs that she has on the album when she's referencing to the feud and how the media sees her in general. Towards the end of the show, Taylor comes out in like this bright red shimmery party dress, like cocktail dress almost, when she's performing This Is Why We Can't Have Nice Things. It basically looked a little like this, but it was like a dress version instead. But it was just very happy vibes and just ending the concert on a good note. And I just love how her outfits kind of just coincided with the theme of the album. In terms of personal style, Taylor was still kind of shying away from the public eye and like paparazzi and stuff, so we weren't seeing a lot of her. So I don't really have any like standout outfits that I remember, but she would tend to draw to the moodier, darker colours. She was rarely on red carpets, but when she was, she showed out. This is honestly one of my favourite Taylor looks of all time. Like, it is a stunning outfit. From the dress to the boots to the hair to the makeup, this outfit ate. Reputation had the best visuals and aesthetics in my opinion. I feel like it just really cemented Taylor's era and that album, and everyone can look at snakes and dark colours and associate that with Reputation. I definitely think this is one of the best celeb eras. I feel like if you see black, silvers, dark colours, and you just immediately associate it with the Reputation album. Her team just ate with the marketing in this era, I have to say that. It was also in this era that Swifties started to notice a lot of Easter eggs and subliminal messages and just regular messages, silent messages in her music videos, and it was just something that just kick-started the whole Easter egg, Taylor Swift dropping hints in her videos and songs thing. Everything about Reputation was so creative and calculated in the best way possible. And even though I said Reputation was like her villain era to an extent, it was really more of a rebirth, I feel like, for Taylor's career, and I feel like the media saw it that way as well. Rebirth is truly the best way to put it, because it wasn't a rebrand. She wasn't trying to change people's perception of her. I feel like at this point Taylor didn't really care what the media thought. It was about how she felt about herself, how her loved ones felt about her, and how her fans were still there for her. And despite the misconception that Reputation is like a revenge album, it's actually a well-written story of how Taylor found love during her darkest times and above all healed. In this era, I feel like Taylor took us on a transformative journey. Through the hardships and difficulties, we were able to learn a lot about Taylor in this era. She really let us step into her brain and how she was feeling and how she was thinking, and took us on this intimate and personal journey to the point that we actually got to know Taylor as a person a lot more than just Taylor as an artist.